And today we're talking about the most common ketogenic side effects. And so we know the ketogenic diet is such a popular diet for a wide variety of reasons. It's so powerful for brain function, for energy, for weight loss. And really research is showing that it's the best thing to cut down inflammation and in a sense to improve our longevity and our quality of life. And so unfortunately, what's not talked about a lot are the different side effects that somebody might experience as they start to work towards getting into a state of keto adaptation. In this presentation, we're going to go through that in detail. And so if you don't know me, my name is Dr. David Jockers. I am a doctor of natural medicine. I have a clinic, Exodus Health Center in Kennesaw, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. And I speak all around the country on a wide variety of health topics. And ketogenic diet, brain health, energy, digestion, and performance is really my specialty. And you can see my beautiful wife, Angel, my little boys, David and Joshua. And so the main ketogenic side effects that people might experience are hypoglycemia, which can really be an underlying root for many of these others. Constipation or diarrhea, so they can experience digestive disorders, frequent urination, drowsiness and dizziness, muscle cramping, sugar cravings, flu-like symptoms, sleep problems, keto breath or this acetone kind of fruity breath, heart palpitations, and just overall reduced strength and physical performance. And so I'm going to go into detail on these and really show you exactly why somebody might experience these and how to remedy them naturally. And so we know with the ketogenic diet, as opposed to the traditional diet, that we burn ketones, which are a byproduct of fat metabolism. A traditional diet, somebody is consuming a lot of grains and carbs, like, for example, breads. And so when they do that, what happens? Their blood sugar goes up, the body secretes insulin, which is this superhero hormone that takes sugar out of the bloodstream and puts it into the muscles, the liver, and all the different tissues. And so when that happens, we teach our body to be a sugar burner. As opposed to a ketogenic diet, we actually teach the body to be a fat burner because blood sugar drops, the body starts to break down these stored triglycerides, turns them into ketones, which are a water-soluble product, water-soluble compound as opposed to a triglyceride. And that water solubility allows the ketone to cross through the cell membrane, right into the mitochondria where it can be used for energy. And it's really a clean energy source as opposed to sugar. Sugar produces very little energy and a lot of waste, whereas ketones produce very little waste, but a lot of energy. So it's really a desired fuel source. And so the main cause, so when we look at all those different ketogenic side effects that I mentioned, the main causes of those are these three things. Number one is hypoglycemia, where the sugar drops too low, the body's not keto adapted yet. Number two is HPA axis, which stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Basically, your brain communicating with your adrenals to respond to stress. When that's dysfunctional, that can cause many of these side effects. And then number three is an electrolyte imbalance. And there's reasons for that. Number one is insulin helps us hold on to electrolytes. So as sugar drops, insulin drops, we start to excrete more of these electrolytes. So we need those things like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. We need a lot of those in our diet. And so we look at the typical individual, right? When we are consuming a meal, our blood glucose, our blood sugar goes up, and it's followed by this elevation in the hormone insulin. And then it should naturally tally down and stabilize. However, when somebody is overproducing insulin, okay, when their body's not responding well to insulin, they have something called insulin resistance, for example. What can happen is basically they'll overproduce insulin, and now the blood sugar goes way up, they overproduce insulin, and now it drags the blood sugar way down. And that's when we can start to have symptoms, because when we are in sugar burning mode, we are going to rely on a steady level of blood sugar. And when that blood sugar drops too low, the body goes into panic. It says, oh my gosh, my brain might starve. And so it goes into panic, and we have symptoms like heart palpitations, like just feeling really fatigued, irritable, having cravings and hungry. having trouble sleeping at night, for example. All of these types of issues can be related to this reactive hypoglycemia where, again, we consume a meal, blood sugar goes up, insulin goes way up, drags that blood sugar way down below the normal, stable level. And so that's when those symptoms start to occur. So here's how you know you're dealing with hypoglycemia versus being keto adapted. Because if we were to look at the blood sugar actually may be the same. So somebody that's keto adapted, oftentimes their fasting blood sugar will be under 80 milliliter per deciliter. Somebody that's hypoglycemic will see the same thing. Their blood sugar will be low, but oftentimes their hemoglobin A1C, which is basically a 90 to 120 day reading of the oxidative stress against the red blood cell, may be high, like above 5.7, as opposed to somebody that's keto adapted, it would be lower, like 4.5 to 5.2. The hypoglycemic individual, though, would typically have more issues with sugar cravings, and they would be irritable and have energy swings. So their energy would not be stable, whereas the keto adapted individual would not have the consistent hunger or cravings. They may only get hungry once a day, for example. When you're keto adapted, you very rarely get hungry. You don't have cravings. You have very stable mood and energy. So you're not noticing these irritability types of swings. You have very good energy. Whereas a hypoglycemic individual has trouble concentrating, a keto adapted individual actually has incredible mental focus and clarity. They feel at their peak, like they're in flow state, because of the ability to use ketones as an energy source, because it's such a great, produces a lot of energy in the brain, and it doesn't produce a lot of metabolic waste. As opposed to somebody who's hypoglycemic and they're not keto adapted, the brain's not able to produce much energy because the sugar's low, and it's creating more oxidative stress and inflammation in the brain. So they're going to have trouble concentrating. Somebody that's fat adapted, they're going to have more balanced hormones. They're not going to deal with hormonal issues. Whereas somebody that's hypoglycemic could deal with thyroid issues, adrenal fatigue. They may have estrogen dominance or low testosterone for a man. Whereas keto adapted individual won't deal with that. The hypoglycemic individual is going to feel real tanked. Okay, they're not going to respond well from exercise. They, within the first hour of waking up, they got to drag themselves out of bed. They just don't feel like they've got that get up and go. In the morning time, they have afternoon fatigue. This is common. And then chronic inflammation as well. They're going to have, more inflammation in their joints, inflammation around their thyroid. They're going to tend to have trouble losing weight. Whereas somebody that's keto adapted is going to have low inflammatory levels, allowing them to lose weight quickly, not have a whole lot of pain. So they're going to reduce their pain levels, have better brain function, and just healthy stress response, meaning that, all the different demands that are on them throughout the day, sometimes they may feel the stress, but they're going to be able to adapt well to it. And that's the great thing about being keto adapted. So what are some things we can do to support our blood sugar stability? Well, number one is, as we're trying to get into ketosis, we can eat every 3 to 4 waking hours in the beginning stages. So in the beginning, we don't want to do intermittent fasting. Instead, it's a good idea to eat within the first hour of waking up and consume, more of a ketogenic style meal, and then consume food every 3 to 4 hours, okay? So I try to, in a sense, have my clients do about every 4 hours they're consuming food. So really about something like a 4 meals a day, for example, would be a good strategy in the beginning, where let's say you wake up at 6, you're having your first meal by 7, you're having your second meal by 11, you're having your third meal by 3, and your fourth meal by 7. And so if you're able to get those 4 in, then that should really help stabilize your blood sugar. You're keeping your carb levels fairly low. You're drinking a lot of mineral-rich beverages. So broth is a great one. You can just get organic, free-range chicken broth, for example, from a store, health food store, or even a lot of conventional grocery stores now will have organic pasture-raised or organic free-range chicken broth, and you can drink that. You can also put salt in your water. So you can take basically an 8-ounce cup of water, a teaspoon of Himalayan salt, and that will provide the electrolytes and the minerals. Because you see, when your blood sugar goes down, your insulin levels go down, and insulin is key for holding on to electrolytes. So as insulin drops, your body's going to need more of these electrolytes. So that way, and that will help keep your energy stable, help reduce symptoms of hypoglycemia. You want to eat hydrating and mineral-rich foods. This would be things like cucumbers, avocados, celery, vegetables in general, cruciferous vegetables. These are very hydrating and mineral-rich foods. Same thing with lemons and limes. Those are great as well. And then magnesium supplementation will help with insulin resistance. It will help with blood sugar stability. It will help reduce the stress load in your brain. So you'll see me talking a lot about magnesium supplementation. I see it helping so many people that are struggling with a ketogenic diet. So I would definitely recommend that. Okay, so let's take a look at how the brain connects with the adrenals. So a part of our brain called our hypothalamus, it's like an antenna. So basically, it's got its antenna in the bloodstream and it's sensing its environment. And when it senses more stress or blood sugar dropping, something along those lines, it will release a hormone called corticotropin releasing hormone that goes to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland then signals adrenocorticotropin hormone to the adrenals. Okay, and that sends, okay, let's elevate cortisol. Let's produce more cortisol, which reduces inflammation in the body and breaks down glycogen, proteins, and fats. So it helps with metabolism, in particular, helping elevate blood sugar. So if we're not able to produce enough cortisol, if we have a bad feedback loop here, then what happens is we're not able to reduce inflammation. So we have more inflammation and we're not able to stabilize blood sugar. Okay, and that's a big issue. And we can also see when we look at how cortisol works, cortisol should always be higher during the daytime hours. Light naturally stimulates cortisol. Okay, and this is why it's important to get out in the sun in the morning and really, throughout the day to keep cortisol elevating. But at night, we don't want to be around a lot of blue light. A lot of this artificial light will stimulate more cortisol. We don't want that at night. We want a natural reduction of cortisol and an elevation of the sleep hormone melatonin. So cortisol is key, again, for keeping blood sugar stable, reducing inflammation. So we need to naturally have elevations during the day in order to accomplish those things. A lot of people are struggling in this area. And when cortisol jumps up at night, because, for example, let's say our blood sugar drops in the middle of the night, then that's going to cause us to wake up because it's going to lower melatonin and it's going to create a stress response. And that's where a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night, is because they're having this hypoglycemic response and cortisol is elevating when it shouldn't. Okay, and so we look at these different stages of adrenal fatigue, and you can see stage 1, we naturally have an elevation of cortisol. All of us are in some level of adrenal, I guess you could say adrenal fatigue. Stage 1 is really where all of us naturally tend to be from time to time, and we should be cycling between normal and stage 1, where cortisol elevates because we've got to react to a stress. The body starts to not produce as much DHEA, which is key for testosterone, estrogen, progesterone production. It's the major precursor. The problem is when we start to get into stage 2 and stage 3 adrenal fatigue, because that's when we start reducing our ability to actually respond to stress. So cortisol starts going down, DHEA continues to go down, and finally in stage 3, both cortisol, DHEA, and the main precursor to both of those, cortisol and DHEA, pregnenolone, goes down. And now we're just underproducing stress hormone altogether. And that's when we can be at major risk for significant fatigue and hormonal imbalances, as well as all the other hypoglycemic type reactions. So we got to take good care of our HPA axis, our brain to adrenal axis. How do we do that? Well, it starts with balancing your blood sugar levels. All the things we just talked about, very, very key. Then we can also use magnesium supplementation, which is one of the foundations that I use. Magnesium helps to reduce the bombardment of stress hormones in the brain, helping give you better mental clarity, helping you sleep deeper and stronger, and getting, in a sense, more restorative sleep at night. It's also really good for mental clarity throughout the day, stable energy throughout the day. And another thing that's commonly used, and I'm a big fan of, is adaptogenic herbs. And these are herbs that have adapted to tremendous amount of geographic stress. For example, rhodiola, one of my favorites. We have it in our product called Adapt Strong. Rhodiola grows in Siberia, and in the mountains there, it adapts to extreme cold and extreme heat. And so the adaptation principle, it has these molecules called terpenes, which basically help with stabilizing something called homeostasis, which is the body's desire to be in balance. And so when we consume rhodiola or ashwagandha or maca or ginseng or cordyceps or shiitake or reishi and all these different herbs and mushrooms that have these terpenes in them, it helps to balance out our homeostasis and helps to balance out our brain to adrenal connection, this HPA axis. So utilizing those, whether it's herbal tea, okay, or a supplement, can be very, very effective for helping to allow your body to adapt better to stress and to get into ketosis, stable ketosis more effectively. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit about maintaining proper hydration and mineral balance. We talked about electrolytes. So you saw things like heart palpitations and muscle cramping that some individuals will experience when they go on a ketogenic diet. And this is key. I mean, we really have to make sure we're staying well hydrated and have a lot of minerals. So drinking a lot of water is super critical. Okay, I'm a huge fan of drinking, your full body weight in ounces of water. Okay, so it seems like a lot, but if you're dosing it throughout the day, you'll notice, and you're using minerals with it, you'll notice that your body almost craves it and that you desire it. And you feel much more energized and mentally stable when you do it. You also want to consume mineral-rich, hydrating foods. We talked about things like avocados, lemons, limes, cucumbers, celery, green leafy vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, all very mineral-rich, really, really good for the body. So we want to use those. And a lot of people aren't talking about those when it comes to a ketogenic diet, but those can be so helpful. And then, of course, making sure we're using a really good salt. I'm a fan of pink Himalayan salt and also using magnesium as well. And so the reason why I like pink Himalayan salt is it has all 84. It just has sodium chloride. That's it. So just really 2 minerals as opposed to 84 in there. Really, table salt is toxic and damaging to the body, whereas pink Himalayan salt is very good for regulating blood sugar, helping with stress hormone balance, so it allows you to sleep better, promotes healthy pH balance, and also has some extra magnesium in it too, which is extremely critical. And then beyond that, in general, really, really focusing on magnesium. So we get the salts in, but then we also want to focus on magnesium because it's so important for all cells to produce energy. Most people are extremely deficient in it. It has over 300 functions in the body, and more than 80% of our population is known to be deficient. And really, just about everybody throughout the day will go in and out of whether you're sufficient or deficient in magnesium. If you eat tons and tons of vegetables, then you most likely are getting a good amount of magnesium. But if you have some sort of malabsorption issue with your gut, that can hamper it. Or on top of that, if you're just under a lot of stress, or if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates and you're having blood sugar imbalances, all those things are going to deplete your magnesium stores. So the key here is actually a ketogenic diet or a lower balancing nutrition plan, along with a lot of green leafy vegetables and avocados, will provide about a sufficient amount of magnesium. But we're not going to go wrong with taking a little bit more magnesium. The way you get too much magnesium is you have diarrhea. So if you're taking supplemental magnesium and you have diarrhea, okay, that's a sign you're probably taking too much magnesium. Until you get the diarrhea, your body actually was using that magnesium and may have even needed the magnesium. So it's one of my go-to supplements, and I found it to be extremely helpful for people that are trying to overcome these ketogenic side effects and really get into stable ketosis. It's our Brain Calm Magnesium. The reason why I like this beyond any other magnesium that's on the market is its ability to cross the blood-brain barrier and interact with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland to help improve connections and communication there so the body can regulate its HPA axis. It's almost like an adaptogenic herb. In a sense, acts like those titropines, where it's able to balance and stabilize out the HPA axis. So if there was one supplement I would take to help improve the ability to get into ketosis, it would absolutely be this brain calm magnesium. So like if you were going to take any other supplement, but you wanted to follow a ketogenic diet and get the results of stable ketosis, this would be my go-to supplement. So you can find that on our store, drjockers.com. Check that out. And ultimately, why would somebody want to follow a ketogenic diet? I mean, it seems like, okay, it's all these side effects. Why would somebody even want to go for it? Well, it's an amazing nutrition plan to help you burn fat, to help build lean body tissue, to improve your mental focus, your energy, your concentration, your overall daily performance. It improves blood sugar stability, reduces inflammation and pain, and reduces your risk of chronic disease, in particular, different forms of cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and heart disease. So the top degenerative diseases, the ketogenic diet is the most powerful and effective nutrition strategy to follow to reduce the risk of developing those. And if you want more detailed information and really a full plan on how to follow the ketogenic diet, I would invite you to jump in and get involved with our Navigating the Ketogenic Diet e-course. You can find that right on our website, drjockers.com. Hope you guys really enjoyed today's training, and I'll be back for a future training. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.